Imagine you are owning a parking garage. Buy a bare concrete slab in the middle of downtown, paint a few dozens of yellow lines on the ground, drop a mechanical gate at the entrance, and sit back on a lawn chair while desperate drivers willingly pay you $35 an hour just to let their four-wheeled metal boxes sit on your block of cement. On the surface, it sounds like the absolute ultimate passive income cheat code. It sounds like a business where you have zero physical inventory that spoils, no complex global supply chains to worry about, no manufacturing delays, and honestly, you don't even need customer service representatives standing at the door because a simple computerized metal arm does literally all the talking for you. But here's the strange part. A parking garage is actually one of the only businesses on earth where you can charge top dollar rent for a square foot of completely empty space, enjoy an absolute local monopoly with virtually zero direct competition for 3 blocks in any direction, and still find yourself completely drowning in millions of dollars of unpayable debt. Look, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how that's even mathematically possible. You'll understand how parking garages actually make their money on the inside, why charging $40 a day for a spot still isn't enough to guarantee you a single dime of net profit, how intelligent operators turn simple concrete ramps into automated money printing machines, and why a parking facility isn't really a parking business at all. It's a high-stakes, ruthless game of financial engineering disguised as a giant concrete box. Now, before we look at the exact dollars and cents flowing through the gate, we have to look at the physical assets themselves, because parking garages generally come in 3 distinct structural models, and each of them represents a completely different economic beast with vastly different risk profiles. First, you have the open-air surface lot. This is the absolute entry-level play in the parking world. You find a vacant downtown plot, flatten it out, throw down a quick layer of asphalt or cheap gravel, drop a single automated pay station at the corner, and you're officially open for business. Setting one of these up might cost you anywhere from $300,000 to a couple of $1 million, depending entirely on the land value in your specific city. The beauty of a surface lot is that your operating overhead is practically non-existent. You don't have elevators to maintain, you don't have massive structural walls to inspect, and you don't need a massive team to run it. But the major downside is efficiency. You are locked to a 1-to-1 ratio of land to cars. 1 acre gives you roughly 100 to 120 parking spaces, maximum. That brings us to the second model, the multi-level structured garage. This is the classic urban concrete monster you see attached to downtown office towers, hospitals, and shopping centers. Building one of these things from the ground up is a massive capital undertaking. In today's market, building a multi-story concrete structure costs anywhere between $25,000 and $45,000 per individual parking space. So, if you are planning to build a modest, middle-of-the-road 400-space facility, you are looking at a $12 to $18 million construction project before you even spend a single penny buying the actual land beneath it. Then, at the absolute top end of the spectrum, you have fully automated robotic underground systems. Instead of driving up winding concrete ramps looking for an open spot, you drive your car into a modern bay, turn off the engine, step out, and a series of computerized robotic lifts and shuttles pick up your vehicle, slide it onto a steel tray, and stack it neatly inside a high-density subterranean vault like a shoebox in a closet. These automated systems cost an eye-watering $60,000 to $80,000 per space to construct. But for mega-dense metropolitan hubs where land costs $5,000 a square foot, they allow operators to pack 3 times as many cars into half the physical footprint, completely altering the financial calculation of urban real estate development. So once you actually build or buy one of these facilities, how does the money actually flow in? Because this is where the dynamic psychology of parking economics gets truly fascinating. Most people who look at a garage assume that operators make their real fortune on those massive, eye-popping event surge rates. You know, when a stadium concert or a championship football game rolls into town and the garage flips the sign to $80 flat rate for the night. But here's the thing you have to understand. Event traffic is just the temporary, unpredictable topping on the sundae. It's nice when it happens, but you cannot build a sustainable multi-million-dollar financial model on a circus that only comes to town twice a month. The absolute real baseline of a garage, the structural bread and butter that actually keeps the lights on and pays the bank, is a carefully balanced mix of monthly contract subscribers and daily commuter turnover. A high-traffic downtown garage operates on an ultra-precise yield management system that makes dynamic airline ticket pricing look almost simple by comparison. Think about a parking garage like a giant bucket with a specific hole in the bottom that drains at a predictable rate every hour. Early in the morning, right between 7 and 9 a.m., city office workers drive in and fill up a large portion of the bucket at a flat monthly contract rate, let's say $350 a month per pass. That monthly subscriber base gives the garage operator a rock-solid, guaranteed monthly revenue floor that covers their base utility bills and baseline payroll. But here's the strategic catch. You never, ever want your garage to be completely full of monthly contract drivers. Why? Because monthly subscribers pay the absolute lowest effective rate per hour of any customer in the facility. If a monthly subscriber pays $350 for 22 workday trips, they are effectively paying you around $2 an hour to park their car. Meanwhile, a transient, hourly driver who pulls in at 10:30 a.m. for a quick business meeting or doctor's appointment might pay $15 for 60 minutes. That transient driver is generating over 7 times more revenue per square foot than your stable contract holder. So the entire secret game of garage management is finding the ultimate sweet spot. You want to allocate, say, 60% of your capacity to guaranteed monthly contracts to ensure your fixed costs are completely covered, leaving 40% of your spaces wide open for early bird specials, transient hourly parkers, and afternoon visitors. If you can efficiently turn that single transient space over 3 or 4 times between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., and then turn it over one more time in the evening to a dinner or theater crowd, that single 20-foot strip of asphalt just generated $90 to $120 in a single 12-hour cycle. Multiply that single spot by 300 spaces operating at high efficiency, and suddenly your building is pulling in over $25,000 a day in top-line gross revenue. At this point, you're probably doing the mental math in your head thinking, wait a minute, 25 grand a day means this concrete box is printing over $8 million a year. The owner must be cruising around on a yacht, right? Well, let's pull back the heavy curtain on the actual expense structure, because this is the exact moment where bright-eyed, first-time real estate operators get completely obliterated by reality. Where does all that cash actually go? The very first and most brutal bite out of your revenue pie is debt service and land financing. Concrete and steel do not pay for themselves. If you took out a $15 million commercial construction loan to build your structured garage at today's commercial interest rates, your monthly principal and interest payment alone is going to run you roughly $95,000 to $110,000 every single month. That means before you pay a single employee, before you flip on a single light switch, and before you buy a single gallon of cleaning solvent, you need to bring in over $3,500 every single day just to stop the bank from foreclosing on your property. Then come the hidden operating expenses that nobody thinks about when they look at a simple parking building from the street. Plain concrete looks practically indestructible to the naked eye, but in the world of heavy commercial real estate, multi-story parking structures are an absolute, unrelenting maintenance nightmare. Every single winter, thousands of heavy commuter vehicles track millions of pounds of corrosive road salt, slush, and chemical de-icers directly onto your driving decks. That saltwater seeps deep into the porous concrete, reaches the internal steel rebar matrix, and causes the steel to oxidize, expand, and burst the concrete from the inside out, a structural disaster known in the industry as concrete spalling. To prevent your floors from quite literally crumbling onto the cars parked beneath them, you have to constantly reapply heavy waterproof deck membranes, maintain structural expansion joints, and conduct massive, multi-thousand-dollar pressure washing sweeps. Throw in the relentless electrical costs of running heavy high-bay LED lighting arrays 24 hours a day, 365 days a year for safety, the high-cost contract maintenance for heavy-duty commercial elevators, and specialized commercial liability insurance policies to cover everything from vehicle break-ins to slip and fall injuries on icy ramps. And suddenly your operational overhead is casually chewing up 30 to 40% of every dollar that rolls through the gate. Look, an exceptionally well-optimized parking garage might boast a comfortable 60% operating margin before debt service. But once you subtract that massive, inescapable monthly mortgage payment to the bank, your actual net cash flow profit margin often compresses down to a tight 5 to 10%. That means on a massive facility generating $2 million in gross revenue every year, the owner might only end up walking away with $80,000 to $150,000 in actual spendable cash flow at the end of the year. This narrow margin brings us directly to the central paradox of the parking business. Why do so many garages go completely broke despite overwhelming urban traffic demand? Why do seasoned operators go bankrupt in cities where streets are choked with cars and finding a parking spot feels like a competitive sport? It usually boils down to three massive operational traps that break the mathematical model. The first trap is structural demand shifts, most notably evidenced by the massive rise of hybrid and remote work schedules. Structured urban parking was historically built on a rigid, highly predictable model. 5 days a week, millions of corporate employees would drive into central business districts at 8 a.m. and leave at 5 p.m. But when corporate culture shifted toward hybrid schedules, where employees work from home on Mondays and Fridays, the weekly commuter math collapsed. A 25% drop in weekday occupancy doesn't mean your profit drops by 25%. Because your bank mortgage and insurance costs are completely fixed whether you have 1 car or 500 cars in the building, a 20% drop in gross revenue completely wipes out 100% of your net profit margin, plunging the garage directly into negative cash flow territory. The second trap is disastrous lease structure agreements. A huge percentage of parking garage operators don't actually own the physical building or the land underneath it. Instead, they operate as management companies that sign long-term master lease agreements with property developers or municipal governments. If an operator signs an overly aggressive, fixed-rate master lease promising to pay the property owner $60,000 a month based on optimistic pre-construction projections, and then a major anchor tenant in the adjacent office tower relocates or goes bankrupt, the parking operator is legally locked into an unpayable contract. They are forced to pay maximum rent on a building that no longer has the foot traffic to sustain it, driving the operation straight into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The third trap is atrocious circulation layout and friction-heavy technology choices. A garage is not just a passive storage warehouse for cars. It is an active fluid dynamic system. If your entrance gates process cars too slowly because of outdated ticketing machines or sluggish payment processing software, morning commuter traffic spills back out onto city streets. That causes massive gridlock, triggers heavy municipal traffic fines, and frustrates daily commuters who will quickly switch to a competing garage down the street that offers frictionless entry. The absolute top-tier operators in the business treat driver retention like a science. They install high-speed license plate recognition cameras that read plates at 20 miles an hour and raise the gates instantly, integrate seamlessly with mobile navigation apps so drivers can pre-book and pay for their spots hours before they even leave their driveways, and utilize real-time overhead green and red LED guidance lights above every single stall so drivers don't waste 10 minutes aimlessly cruising up and down ramps looking for an open spot. When you zoom out and look at the whole picture, you realize the ultimate truth of this industry. A parking garage isn't really a long-term business about cars at all. It is fundamentally a sophisticated land banking strategy with a cash flow engine bolted onto the top of it. The smartest, most successful real estate moguls on the planet don't buy or build downtown parking lots with the expectation of getting rich purely from collecting $30 parking fees for 30 years. They buy a strategic surface lot or a low-density garage in a rapidly growing downtown corridor, let the steady stream of parking income pay off the property taxes, insurance, and bank debt for 15 years without blowing through huge amounts of capital, and then, when the surrounding neighborhood densifies and land values skyrocket, they tear down the concrete slab and sell the underlying dirt to a high-rise developer for $50 or $100 million. The parking math simply keeps the lights on and pays the mortgage today, so that the land appreciation can make you spectacularly wealthy tomorrow.